Of all the supercars from the 80s, there was nothing quite like the Porsche 959. Built for Group B homologation, the car was recognized as a technological masterpiece, one of the most advanced cars of its time. With 450 horsepower from its twin-turbo flat six, the performance was extraordinary for the era. It would do close to 200 miles an hour. But what remains most impressive today is the accuracy of its vision for sports cars of the future. In a time where most cars were carbureted, where they had drum brakes, the 959's all-wheel drive system could selectively change the torque split. The driver from the cockpit could adjust damper stiffness and ride height. It even had a tire pressure monitoring system. We take a lot of those features for granted as they've become the new norm. But it makes us ask the question, what can we expect for the future? And for that, we turn to the Porsche 918. Though named after the legendary 917 racing car, its hybrid system, its nearly 900 horsepower, and its advanced all-wheel drive system could show the future of sports cars just like the 959 did. Just how fast is the 918? 0 RPM torque and all-wheel drive propels the 918 to 60 miles an hour in 2.4 seconds. The quickest Motor Trend has ever recorded. The quarter mile, 10 seconds flat at 145.2 miles an hour. How does that compare to the McLaren P1? Let's see. From 60 miles an hour, the 918's best braking performance took just 94 feet, putting it among the quickest stopping cars we've ever tested. Generating an average 1.12 G laterally, it's among the stickiest cars we've ever tested. Combine that with a balanced chassis, the braking performance, incredible straight-line acceleration, and the car's ability to transfer torque from wheel to wheel, and you get a result that's the fastest figure-8 lap time we've ever recorded, and by a good margin. At 22.2 seconds, the 918's lap is over half a second faster than the previous leader. And on a track where tenths make all the difference, that lead is simply jaw-dropping. The 918's performance is astounding today, but like the 959, we're curious how history will view this car. So let's turn back to the 959 with Randy Popst, who remembers the sports car climate of the 80s well. Randy, the 959 is an awesome car, and it's a hugely important car for the 80s. You were racing cars at that time. You were driving cars a lot. What does this car mean versus what you were driving?
They're antiques. It was a whole other world. The cars I was driving had no ABS. My VW Golf Volkswagen Cup car, 85 horsepower.
Yep.
It had CIS fuel injection, no feedback, well, it had an oxygen sensor, but it was primitive.
It's crazy how advanced this car was for its time. I mean, never mind the four-wheel drive system, which was revolutionary. I mean, this thing had tire pressure monitoring, it had ABS, it had sequential turbos. One would spool up before the other. I mean, titanium connecting rods in 85.
Wow.
I mean, that's space-grade stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like it was a kind of a space program level development for a four-wheeled automobile.
And 450 horsepower, that was more than double the standard 911 thanks to those turbos.
That's really kind of mind-bending, and today I have to just consciously take myself back to the world that it was then. Because now we're used to it, right? Today's cars have all got that kind of technology, but not in the 1980, what are we talking, 86?
85 to 87 area.
Wow.
Yeah.
Back then, 200 horsepower was a lot of horsepower.
And what was really interesting is this wasn't a race car. Like the F40 was a race car. This was a GT car that was built to essentially do everything. That's why it had a snow and gravel mode. That's why you have a granny gear, is to drive through mud. This was a car that was intended to do everything at once.
An all-purpose weapon.
Yes. What's really interesting about this car and the 918 is that they show the roadmap for the future.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
This car showed the next 30 years of automobile development with really accurately.
And today's supercars have all this technology. The 918 is taking it to the next step.
It is. The 959 is old school future tech. And then here we have in the 918 modern future tech. What are your thoughts on this car?
New school.
New school.
I think this car is predicting the future. The combination of the electric and gas and the efficiency of making big power and the efficiency of regenerating.
Yes.
Energy only changes form, and what this car can do is change that energy back into a usable form, send it right back to the wheels again.
This car shows that hybrids have a lot of benefit with fuel economy, but they can also be really cool power adders. They can be this rechargeable, nitrous-like feeling that gives you this really interesting control in a lot of different ways over the axles too.
Well, there's a gauge right on the right side of your dash that says boost. But it's not talking about turbos. This car doesn't have turbos. That's like electric boost.
That's great. It's like video games, how each lap you get more boost. When you brake hard, when you lift off the throttle, the boost recharges like it does in a video game. It's crazy how cars are actually replicating that.
Does it?
Yeah.
I don't play video games.
Oh, well, you drive cars.
But the boost is new, and the boost is really effective, and it's electric. And it can be regenerated while we're driving.
Yes.
And then the technology combines the best of gas tech and one-way aspirated, so you get that great direct linear response from the engine.
You get the emotion of that exhaust note with the efficiency of having electric power.
Yeah, you drive a Tesla, it's a fast car, but there's zero noise. It's so weird.
You don't get this.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing.
Wow, so it still sounds like a supercar.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. This car is an indication of the future where you can have a 600 horsepower, 9,000 RPM V8, where you can have 20 miles of all-electric range, where you can have like the thrill of driving a sports car, but also the economy. If the future is like that, sign me up. I think the future is going to be great. Of course, we couldn't visit a racetrack that's referred to as the fastest road in the West with the Porsche 918 without lapping it. looked and couldn't find a faster lap time from a production car. And that reality just begins to illustrate the new paradigm we're seeing established for performance cars of the future. They can be hybrids, or provide extra power to offset torque deficiencies, or to simply be boost. The cars themselves no longer have to be difficult to drive quickly. They can be balanced and friendly. They can be laden with technology, but still feel utterly satisfying. They can give you everything.